What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We're here again, SKF Weekly. You know who it is. Ron and John back again. It's another jam-packed show. We got another special guest that I'm excited for. And happy Monday to everybody. What's going on, John? How you feeling, brother?
Oh man, I'm doing well, man. Looking forward to today's show. It's going to be interesting topic today. I see we're gonna talk about Spider once more. Probably a little twist to it. Probably not the same old conversation that we've all been having. So we'll see how it all shapes out.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the conversation. Definitely looking forward to our special guest. He
Absolutely.
was actually on the Still Nick Fan show well, many moons ago, he popped in for a guest appearance on a weekend. No, actually, it was on a Friday. Now I remember. It was a Friday because I know he had something to do, but he still made time to jump in for a little bit, which was pretty dope.
Right.
And before we get to him real quick, shout out to, the chat. I think there's something going on today. I think there's a Pro-Am happening at
Mm.
Hostess Community College. I think Obi's playing. I know, if I'm not mistaken, IQ was supposed to be there, but he couldn't make it. I guess maybe he's been tired doing a lot of stuff. But I do know they mentioned something about Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson being in the building for that. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if they're playing in it, but I think they're definitely there, at least supporting Obi. So that's pretty dope.
Right.
Yeah. So without further ado, let me just say that there's a lot of Nick content creators in this community who are doing a great job. But there's some that I know when I started the show with John. There's people that I pointed to. You guys all know Blorange Tears, Freezy. Sim, of course, with Nothing But Knicks. There's Nick Fans TV as well with CP and at the time Jay Ellis. But another show that I find that is very informative, real good takes, different perspectives on stuff is Nick Film School. And Nick Film School is growing and growing, and we have the man here, Mr. Jonathan Macri, to tell us a lot about what's going on with Nick Film School, where it's going, how we got to this point, because some people don't know the origin story. I personally don't know the whole thing myself. I've been learning bits and pieces as I've gone along. So let's welcome Jonathan Macri from Nick Film School to the show. Hey,
What's
what's
going
going
on,
on,
guys? How
man?
are you?
Hey, can't
How are
complain,
you?
man. Happy to have you.
Good stuff.
So, I will tell you once again, if I haven't already, thank you enough. Thank you again for popping in that time, for us. You popped in the real early days of Still Nick Fans. We didn't have many special guests or anybody on during that time. You were one of the first. So I thank you
Right.
for doing that. It was a nice conversation. I know it was brief because you had something to do, but I really appreciate you doing that for us. So thanks again for that.
Yeah, of course. And don't mind me if it seems like I'm talking a little funny because there's like a 1 second lag between when you guys are talking and when my voice is up on the screen. But yes, it's totally fine. I was happy to do it then. I'm happy to do it now and excited to, chat a bit about what.
Nice. That's dope. So, just to start off, I mean, what started? I mean, I love asking this question to everybody we interview. What started your Nick fandom? Like, how did you become a Nick fan? How did it all start for you?
For me, I would say it started in earnest in 93-94 season. When I was, oh my goodness, what was I, 10 years old? I guess, yeah, that sounds about right. I remember the 92-90 year. I went to my first game, I think, in 93, in the 92-93 season, but I wasn't really cognizant of what was going on. And then 93-94 is kind of like, the whole city was swept up with it. And I had a situation where, like a lot of kids in the country, I had my biological dad who would see me on the weekends, and then I had my stepdad who, lived with my mom, and both of them were very much into the team that year. So, it was kind of a cool thing that I shared with both of them. And I think there was something in that connection that made it extra special, and obviously, the team ending up in the finals that year was helpful towards cementing a lifetime of fandom as well. But yeah, I was hooked. There was never any fallow periods. It was always kind of diehard from that age onwards.
Did you have a favorite player back then?
Patrick, Patrick is Patrick. Although my like quirky under the radar guy that I always was excited when he came into the game was Anthony Bonner, just because he just seemed like a pain in the ass to play against. And yeah, I like that he was kind of a, just kind of a grungy bench guy. And if I've tended to gravitate towards those players as favorites of mine over the last 30 years.
That's dope. Yeah. John, I didn't want to. Did you have?
Yeah. No. Go ahead. Go ahead. Those
okay.
were some great seasons. Those were some great seasons. I'm remembering going back in time to like '92 and where I was,
dude,
a long time ago,
fun, man. The fun time. Yeah. That was a great time for
those were high school years for us, though. By the way,
right? Yeah. Now I feel old.
Yeah.
No, man, you're making me feel young. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, that's good, man. It's great. It's a great feeling. Enjoy it. It's fleeting. So, all right. Well, that's great. You came up at a really good time watching them. And you've been through a lot over those years since then. A lot of ups and downs, good moments here and there. So what led you to Knicks Film School and to be a part of a podcast and talking about the Knicks?
Let's see. So, like I said, I've been a fan for most of my life. And, I think as far back as high school, it was always definitely a part of me that wanted to write about sports and specifically about the NBA and, the Knicks. But I never really thought of that as a realistic goal. So as one does, went out and got myself a career and tried to go about it the traditional way. And, I also, like a lot of people, I wasn't very happy doing what I was doing. So I switched up my career when I was, I guess, about 30. I was a lawyer at the time, left law, and then went into teaching, and through just various circumstances, my life also changed in that I picked up a commute, which hour plus each way. And that commute was really, I always like to say, the reason why I got into this, because I had an hour to kill on the LIRR, on the way and on the way back from my job. So I just did what I enjoyed doing. I'm like, I'm going to write because I've always wanted to, and like I tried to write different things, but eventually I would always gravitate back towards writing about basketball because it was what I enjoyed writing about the most. And that really was the start of it. And then, eventually I submitted, some of the stuff that I had written to some different blogs, and that got picked up, and then trying to slowly work my way up and get a little bit of a reputation in social media. Twitter was very big for me for that. And then, the last part of the story is just Knicks Film School, because so my old partner, who's currently the head of, he puts out the Metropolitan. It's a Mets newsletter associated with the Mets Fix Twitter. Jeffrey Ballone, JB, he already had the Knicks Film School Twitter account, which used to tweet out. I'm sure people who've been following for a while remember the old videos of like Ron Baker and Frank Ntilikina and like things like that. And so we kind of hooked up, and I went to him and I was like, hey, I kind of want to do a podcast. And he's like, oh, that's cool. I'm actually looking to transition into doing more writing. And we decided to kind of team up. And then that was really the start of Knicks Film School. And then he left to focus on other things and eventually baseball. And then, we just kind of grew from there. And I took on the newsletter, and Andrew came on the podcast with Jeremy. And obviously we've grown since then with Chris and Benji. And, the team is even continuing to grow. We're excited about some additions that we have for next season as well. But yeah, man, it's a trip. I was just, it doesn't seem like that long ago where I was just like, man, it'd be cool if someone who I didn't know personally read something that I had to write. And that was always just kind of my goal, is to get people to read what I had to say. And, now we're here, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That story is so inspirational, though, for those folks who, sort of caught up in a job that they're not, so fond of, because that's usually what happens, growing up, native New Yorker as well. So know what that looks like, just trying to do the best you can to get out from where you're at. For some folks, it makes it difficult. You got to get your 9-to-5 job, or, you go to school, you try to do better for yourself, and then things don't pan out, at least it doesn't fulfill you emotionally, that it doesn't satisfy you emotionally. And so you try to find your way in other areas. And, that's inspiring for a lot of folks, that they know that they can not be afraid of transition and go for, finding your way around this earth and life and situation, and just make different choices that may not seem great at first, but will work itself out in the future. And then, now you're doing something, for yourself, which seems to be like leisure at first, right? And then now it's starting to become a little bit more than just that.
No, I mean, it's like, look, and I don't try to hide it. I still teach, I'm still a teacher. Right. I'm off right now because it's summertime, which is great. One of the perks of teaching life. But like, I will continue trying to do both for as long as I physically can. Obviously the priorities have kind of shifted, and now, Knicks Film School has become big enough where it's I'll never stop doing that. I haven't hit 40 quite yet, so I still got some energy in me, so I can still keep up the double life for the time being. No one seems to complain about it too much. But yeah, man, I mean, to what you were just saying, I mean, there was a lot of people that definitely thought I was freaking nuts when I made some of the decisions that I have over the years. And I think I probably had a little bit too much, I don't know, chutzpah is the only word that's coming to mind, where I was just like, maybe should have been a little bit more realistic, but I don't know. When you're being realistic is the responsible choice, but it's one I often did not make, and it got me into trouble over the years. But in this instance, it turned out to be a good thing, I guess. I don't know.
Which is dope. I mean, I know a lot of people are happy you made that decision because you provide quality content. Knicks Film School is doing great. I do notice that you guys are continuing to grow. I saw over the past year or so, there was more people that a couple more people I saw that were brought along. The team seems to be growing, and I'm sure it's going to continue to grow because you guys are doing great work over there. And you encompass not only, the YouTube aspect of it, but also Twitter. I know there's some Twitter Spaces stuff that happens as well. Maybe not you personally, but I see other. Yeah,
I still don't. Right. My next Twitter Space will be my first. I haven't popped that cherry yet. Maybe one day this summer. We'll see.
I got you. Well, once again, thank you for the content that you do bring to the table. It gives us a little different outlook and different perspective on stuff. The takes are original, and also like when we get into like new acquisitions and stuff of that nature, or if we're trying to work on trades and stuff, you guys get into the nitty gritty, breaking down salaries and how cap works. I always think that's very interesting because I don't necessarily understand all of it. So when you guys are talking about it, I think that's pretty dope. It helps.
Yeah, and that's, shout out to Jeremy Cohen. He's fantastic with the salary cap. He understands it in and out. He is our, our own, like, I don't know what you want to call him, Bobby Marks, Larry Kuhn, whoever your chosen CBA expert is. I mean, Brock Aller, obviously, with the Knicks. Yeah. Yeah, but he's fantastic with that stuff, and that's why it's a really great team that we have, because everybody kind of has their area of expertise. But like, I think that's I think that's important because I think, to me at least, and this is ultimately why I decided to dedicate so much time to this stuff, is that sports fandom is better when you're coming at it from a more informed perspective. And I didn't, at the time that I got into this and decided to start a podcast and then eventually take over the newsletter, I just didn't feel like there was any coverage at that time where I was like, the Knicks made a big trade. I have to go listen to this pod, or I have to go read this thing from this person. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let me see if I could do that. Now, I don't know that I've succeeded in that, but at least that was always the impetus behind, for me at least, Knicks Film School, is to provide, maybe not the best of every type of coverage, because there's amazing people out there who do so much wonderful work, and that has only increased over the intervening years since I got started, but provide, I guess, all-encompassing, where if you come to Knicks Film School, you will, leave with, whether it's a film breakdown or a salary cap breakdown, or, just something more fun, like in terms of commentary or opinions or any of that stuff. Like, I'd like to think that we provide all of that. So, yeah.
No, I would say you definitely do. Because, just tuning in and just listening to your takes and just that alone, getting your perspective is important to have. You don't see it like a lot of other fans see the game and see the team. You come at it with more of a, you're not delusional, right? There are some delusional fans of ours, and we can make some subjective, calls when it comes to our Knick players and. Potentially like Knick trades. There's always like some wild trade rumors that someone picks up and goes on their channel and just sort of provokes conversation around that won't even make the light of day. And you guys come to it with a better perspective, a more
but that's
objective.
But that's a good thing. I mean, right. It's a good, fan. Andrew always says this: fan is short for fanatic. Yeah. You are supposed to overrate the players on your team, because if you don't, because every fan base does it, to different degrees and like different degrees within the fan base. But like, you're supposed to love your guys. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to think that RJ Barrett is going to make an All NBA team someday, or whatever the case may be. It's like, that's good. That's healthy, and that is ultimately why. We have shows like this, why people, listen to my podcast or read the newsletter or anything. It's because we're all crazy about this team to varying degrees. I think it's hard sometimes to take a step back and attempt to look at it objectively. And my biggest thing is, it's like, I try to acknowledge when I can't be objective about something, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Like this season, I knew it. I just was never able to be objective about Thibodeau. I was a Thibodeau guy. I was a Thibodeau supporter from day one, and I tried to just be open about it and be like, look, man, whoever I was talking to, I'm in his corner. But I think at least if you acknowledge that, people could disagree with you, and God knows a lot of people did and still do with my stance on that and him. But I think it at least creates a more open format for a meaningful dialogue, hopefully. Not always the case, but ideally.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree. I mean, there's tons of different perspectives out there, and it's nice to hear them because it does create the dialogue in which we have topics to talk about and fan interaction. So it's good. It's good for everybody to at least have a lot of different perspectives. Some right, some wrong, but everybody's entitled to their opinions and how they look at things.
The scariest part for me, though, Ron, is the ones, the sort of outlandish ones, like the we're gonna make a trade for what was the one that we heard a lot of last year? It wasn't Kawhi. It was Paul George.
Now I'm curious. Paul George.
I'm like, why? Like, why would he ever leave the situation he's in? It's like those outlandish ones sort of kill me, because I'm like, what are you guys watching? Like, who are you listening to that's giving you this information? Because it's never gonna happen.
Well, there's a lot of voices out there now, so
yeah, it's tough to see it happening. It's just true. Wanted to get your takes on a couple things. We're gonna introduce a little something we put together for Donovan Mitchell in a second. But before we got into that, I just wanted to do a little quick housekeeping thing. Just salute to the chat. Thank you guys for tuning in. Shout out to Walter Blackman Jr. Appreciate you as always, man. Thank you for the generous super chat. I can't tell you how much it means to us. Thank you so much for always supporting the show. Shout out to OCD Shaggy, Geraldine McIver in the building, the first lady of Still Knick fans. Josh, aka UncleFoolio's in the building. He says, salute, excited for this episode with KFS, always. Salute to Brooklyn Butch. Maddox in the building. King Poppy is here. Pete Panagiotopoulos is here. JJ is here. The infamous new king, Worldwide L, David L, and Be Civilized, Knick fans Brazil, Victor in the building. That was a great interview I saw you do with them, Macri. Appreciate Victor as always. And my man Omega is in the building. All right.
Salute to everybody on the chat.
I also wanted to do this quick. Yeah. I'm sorry. I also wanted to do this quick little shout out to Big Lou and Paris Duggar. I apologize. It was a real busy show. It was a long 3-hour show on Saturday. You guys both sent 2 super chats. I didn't get around to reading them. I saw them afterwards. Want to make sure I shout you guys out. Thank you for the generous super chats to both of you. So that being said, we wanted to get into what we like to call the Donovan Mitchell effect. Because, the thing about Donovan is, like, do we get him? Do we not get him? If we get him, how does it impact the team? Negatively, positively, don't know. But, we're hoping that in the end, we will wind up with them. Because I honestly think that we need him, not even just for the fact that he's a star quality type player. I also think that, quite frankly, this Knick roster is a little congested. There's maybe 11 to 12 guys that should or might deserve minutes, and I don't know how they would possibly get minutes. So in order to, trim the fat a little bit, getting a guy like Donovan takes care of that. A couple players would have to go to get him back, and that might help with some of that congestion and, a possible logjam, Thibodeau rotation issue. So we've got a couple slides that talk about the Donovan Mitchell effect. There's our guy right there, Spider. Let's see. Next slide. There we go. All right. So, if you look at the statistical categories for Mr. Donovan Mitchell, you can see, the dude is a bucket. Okay. I can't really point to anything on the offensive end that really throws me for a loop. Everything looks pretty good to me. The only thing that I guess some people might, have a little, question about is the assist ratio, because, he plays the point. He used to play the point for Utah. I don't know if they're still going to do that, but 5 assists a game there's nothing really wrong with that. This past season, averaging 4.5 for his career. But just look at the points per game, 25.9, almost 26 points per game last season, averaging about 24 for his career. That's something that, quite frankly, the Knicks have never had. In this current time, of course, they had it back in the Patrick Ewing days, maybe close.
Right.
But this is something special. The 3-point shooting, 36% for his career, 83% for his career from the line. Effective field goal percentage, 51%. His efficiency rating for his career is 18.9, almost 19%. 19%. Like, I can't say enough about him offensively. Of course, there's questions about him defensively.
Right.
But when you think about Donovan and what he might provide for this Knicks team, Jonathan Macri, that is, I'm gonna have to do that. I'm gonna say John for my guy John, and then I'm gonna say Jonathan Macri. Let me just call you Macri. Let's do that.
You just call me Macri. Everybody calls me Macri.
All right. What do you think about his possible impact for this Knicks team if we were to get him? And obviously, if there's any negatives to it, you can bring those up as well.
I mean, it's Donovan Mitchell. I feel like the biggest thing that has maybe gotten not lost, but we've heard now for, I don't know, since Leon Rose got hired, or even if you want to go back before that to when they tried to get KD and Kyrie, it's like the Knicks need a star. The Knicks are trying to get a star. The Knicks are going after a star. The Knicks are accumulating assets to get a star. And that term, I feel like, has almost become offensive to a certain subset of Knicks fans who are like, well, why do we always need to go chasing after a star when we have a lot of really good stuff on the roster right here? And the Knicks do have a lot of really good stuff on the roster right now. What they don't have, and the reason why Donovan Mitchell is a star in the capital S sense of the word, is because he's a high usage, efficient, 3-level scorer that can create his offense 35. Well, maybe not 35. He's not. Doesn't quite have Steph and Luka range, but he's pretty far out there. The point is, he creates for himself behind the arc. He creates for himself in the mid range. He creates for himself getting the basket. And at his volume and with his efficiency, there are, I don't know, 8-10 guys in the league that can do it in the way that he's done it. And then if you want to throw in his playoff performances and you want to say that that's a yet even a more reason to get him, that's fine too. I'm happy you brought up the assists. That's the only real knock. And no, 5 assists isn't bad, but when you're talking about the difference between a top 5 to 10 player and a 15 to 20 player, if you have a small-ish guard who, I actually think he'll be fine on defense if and when he starts trying, which he hasn't done much over the last couple of years. But he has the wingspan, he has the size, he's a good athlete. He'll be fine. But 6'1", or whatever, I think he's 6'1", 6'2". He's not the size of Jason Tatum or Kawhi Leonard or the aforementioned George or those big wings. So if you're going to be the size of a guard in the NBA and you aren't a 8 or 9 or 10 assists a game guy, and I understand there's exceptions to this rule. Steph doesn't get a lot of assists. He doesn't need to. He helps his team create offense in so many ways that don't get measured on the stat sheet. Donovan's lack of elite playmaking, yeah, it does matter in the context of this specific conversation where we're grading, again, is it top 5 to 10? Is it top 15 to 20 player? And the reason why we're even having this conversation about whether he is top 10 or top 20 is because of the price, obviously, that Utah is demanding. And when they're asking for you to give up a package that traditionally has only been reserved for, all NBA, first team contending sorts of players, then yeah, you have to nitpick his game. And I understand people's rationale where they're like, no, he's not good enough to be able to give up everything. And I'm not sure I disagree with that. At the same time, I think they need to take this negotiation to its logical endpoint and make every reasonable effort to get this deal done, because back to the first thing I said, and then we can move on, which is that you do not have someone who could do what Donovan Mitchell does. RJ Barrett, Jalen Brunson, these are guys who, I mean, Jalen Brunson's one of the most efficient scorers in the league when it comes to being close to the rim. But if you're a 6'1" guard and you can't pull up from deep, which Jalen Brunson doesn't want to do, I think he made like 29 pull-up threes last year or something like that. It's not a large number, and the efficiency wasn't good either. Like, it limits, and his playmaking, I would say, is probably around the same as Donovan. So it's like there's a limit to what an offense where Jalen Brunson is your best player. And RJ, God willing, I hope in the years to come he develops those other parts of his game, but like, we don't need to get into the holes in RJ's game either, because there are holes. That is why, yes, they do need a player like Donovan Mitchell. It's just the cost and what does it leave you with to try to continue to improve the team after that.
Yeah, that's well said.
I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm like, yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. That's kind of my rationale for it. John, would you concur about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we talked about in our previous conversation this past Sunday, was that, as long as we would like to see a deal done, but also with the understanding that we're not giving away everything. We're not giving away, our future. We're not packaging our future away, because we don't necessarily know how RJ will continue to progress over the next few years. We hope that he becomes, a number 2 option, or potentially a number 1 option for some. But if we were to keep the starting squad, let's just say, if we were to, we have Jalen Brunson on this team. If the rumors are not true, and we make a deal for Donovan Mitchell, and we keep Randall on this team with Barrett, with Mitchell Robinson as the starting squad, what does this team look like in the future? Like,
so you're saying without Mitchell?
With Mitchell on his roster, and not getting rid of Randall, where do we stand in your eyes? Because
I mean, they're not going to get they're not going. I mean, unless they could rope the Lakers into giving a real, giving up one or both of those distant picks, I would be surprised if it was a straight. The more I think about it, I would be surprised if it was a straight 3-team deal with the Lakers. I would love to talk myself into them being interested in Randall. I can't quite do it. I think maybe there's another deal out there or another team that might be interested in Julius. But putting that aside, I think if trade for Donovan Mitchell, the odds are still probably better that Julius is on the team than not, which creates some complications, because then you have 4 high-use guys who certainly like to have the ball, and in the case of Julius in particular, doesn't really offer you anything as a spot-up threat behind the arc. So, like, what's he doing when he doesn't have the ball? Off-ball stuff has never been his strength. But I digress. The point is, I think if they get Donovan Mitchell, there will be issues. It will not be a contending team for sure. I'm sure. I don't even think they would get home court advantage in the East if they traded for him. I do think that they would be like a top 6 team in the East. I don't know if they would, be 5th or 6th. Maybe they get 4th. I don't know. I could see that. I mean, who knows? Maybe they mess around and they really just figure something out, and Julius kind of starts hitting enough of those long and threes again to keep defenses honest. I don't love the fit of how everything pieces together, assuming they bring in Mitchell and they keep, again, those other main pieces. That said, I don't think they're far away from getting a team together that does fit pretty well. And maybe they're a piece or 2 away. But again, we're getting so far ahead of themselves. And honestly, the last week or so is the first time I've actually started to think about, like, wow, maybe this is just going to be the team, and they're not going to get Mitchell. And I think that's a fun team too.
Right. So, unfortunately, we started the show a little later than we would have planned, so we lost a little bit of time. And I want to, for the sake of time, I want to be able to get Macri out of here. But if you can bear with me, ask you one more question. We'll
Sure.
come back to this topic. John and I will chop it up. But
We will.
I wanted to know, what do you think about the current state of the New York Knicks with the addition of Jalen Brunson and how this team kind of, is laid out currently? Like, because the Donovan Mitchell thing, it's like a real, if I was a betting man at this point, I'm starting to lose faith every day. And I'm not even upset about that. And I don't think Leon Rose and the brass are that upset about that either. They would love to get him, but if it doesn't happen, I think they still feel very confident that something's going to break down the line and they'll continue to build. So I just wanted to know, what's your take on the current state of the Knicks with the Jalen Brunson addition, and how we look going forward without Donovan.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when you say state of the Knicks. The first thing that pops into my mind always, inevitably, is like how like the culture, and like does it, is everybody working to move towards the same goal, and like do we have a competent front office in place, and do we have a competent coach in place, everybody getting along and all that stuff. And like, I think even putting aside anything that is going on the court, for as much as the Tibbs stuff that came out last year about, was, World Wide West kind of putting some of the blame on Thibodeau for the failures of last season. Like, I didn't love that stuff. I think any Knicks fan, even if you're someone that is rooting for Thibodeau to lose his job, I don't think infighting is ever a good thing. That said, it feels like they have come out of it okay, and they're in a good place organizationally. And I bring that up because I think that's the most important thing, because I don't think anything good can be accomplished if your house is not in order. And I think for the most part, their house is in order. I like what they did the offseason. It's very clear the direction they're trying to go. I don't love every move. I think the Cam thing is going to come back to bite them in the ass, because I don't think he's going to play here, and I don't think they're going to be able to get value for him. But again, I'm getting off track as I am wont to do. On the court, how are they going to be? I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be, an above 500 team. I don't love the fact that they're going to have 4 starters who greatly prefer to operate inside the arc, and I'm talking about Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. That's not ideal in the NBA in 2022. That said, 2 of those guys that I just mentioned, in Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett, have shown proficiency in being able to hit spot up threes. Jalen Brunson, especially from the corners last year, he was one of the best shooters in basketball. And RJ, if you go back, not last season, he tailed off last season, which I think it's going to be important that he rebound. But the season before that, he hit like 42% or 43% from, I forget if it was the right or left corner, which his preferred corner is. But he was like 40% from the corners overall. And he was good above the break, too, 2 years ago. So both of those guys have shown ability to knock down an open setup, which is good, and that's important. I think Mitch will be good with RJ and with Brunson. I like that they brought back Mitch. The contract's a little high, but it's descending, and whatever. That'll be fine too. For me, their ceiling comes down to Julius. Like, if Julius is knocking down threes and not doing stupid shit with the ball in his hands, and like trying on defense and not getting in his own head with the fans and with the opposing teammates and with his own team and like all this other stuff. If Julius, and I don't need him to be the Julius of a 2020 2021, just be better than last year. Just be somewhere in between what we saw last year and what we saw 2 years ago. If he could be that, I think they have a chance to certainly snag a playoff spot. I wouldn't bet on it, but I don't think, like, if you told me that the Knicks did not trade for Donovan Mitchell and they had a top 6 record at the All-Star or going into the trade deadline, I would say, okay, maybe another situation or two really blew up, but I don't think that that's nuts. Because I still, again, I'm a broken record. I still believe in Tibbs. I think Tibbs gets the most out of his teams for the most part. Doesn't always make the best decisions that keep the fans happy, but he gets a lot out of his teams. I mean, this team was a dumpster fire last year and still somehow ended up with basically an even net rating and the borderline defense. So I still think he's good. And like, last thing I'll say, I know I'm like going on and on, is that I do think that, well, yes, the NBA is a league where it's how good is your best player, how good is your second best player, sometimes how good is your third best player. I do think that they have quality depth. If the worst player, I mean, this is probably a great question and something I haven't even thought to ask myself, but now that I'm just thinking of it, I'll say here, like, who's the worst player that's going to get minutes for them next year? Let's assume that they don't make any trades. I'm assuming Cam Reddish would start the year outside of the rotation, as well as Deuce McBride, and that their 10-man group would be, the five obvious starters, and then Hardenstein, Obi. I shouldn't say the five obvious starters. Either I was about to say either Fournier or Grimes would start, and then the other one come off the bench with Rose and Quickly. Like, who's the worst player in the 10-man grouping? I don't have an answer, but the fact that there's no good answer to that question, I think that's the best thing the Knicks have going for them right now, is that there won't be a weak spot on the floor if they go into the year with the team that they have. And I mean, I like that, and I like the different combinations that Tibbs could play around with. I love the Hardenstein addition. I think Hardenstein's going to be great for them. And it's just that they're a quality team. They have quality depth. They have quality players up and down the rotation. It's just about, can they make it work? Again, probably won't be a perfect fit, but I think they'll do enough to figure it out to be, at the very least, a winning team.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement of that. Wow. John,
we spin that same conversation 4 different ways on Sunday, right? Like we were spinning our heads around this rotation. If we were to stick to where we are today, if we stick with this squad, just trying to figure out who would garnish minutes, right? And who would be the odd man out. And for a lot of folks, they're seeing Cam having the opportunity to resurrect his career with the Knicks because he's due for a contract. But that's some fans, right? There's some fanatics out there who believe that. And then there's also folks who are saying that, Fournier on this team is sort of the logjam, right? And so there's hopes that, the team does make a move to get Fournier out of this team in order to give viable minutes to guys like Quickly and Grimes.
The problem is
so many ways.
Evan Fournier makes $18 million next year, and he makes 18 point something or 19 point something the year after that, and then he's a team option. You're not going to the Knicks are not going to bench a player who's due $37 or $38 million over the next 2 years. That's not going to happen. Also, by the way, Evan Fournier is really freaking good. Evan Fournier, I know he's frustrating, and I get it. Trust me, I had spent so many nights after games, like almost literally cursing his name, because he does feel like an empty calories kind of guy in a lot of the games. But he also hit, and I know I've said this stat a lot on my show, but I'll say it again because it I don't think it really hits people. He made more 3-pointers than anybody in basketball from January 1st until the end of the year, and these were not all just wait behind the arc, catch the ball, fire away. Like, these are some high degree of difficulty shots. I understand he's not, taking off the dribble threes left and right. He's not pulling up from all kinds of distance, but those were tough shots. It seemed like once or twice a game he would find a way to get a 3 up out of like a phone booth, the way he was being defended, and he made a lot of those, and his percentages were good. His percentages reflected that. So like, they're not going to bench Evan Fournier, and they're not going to bench these kids that have a real chance to be good that they're haggling with the Jazz over that they don't want to give them in this trade. Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley, and Quentin Grimes. They're not going to bench these guys. Cam is a guy they got for a pick that I'm not going to say they didn't want the pick, but like, why did they get that pick? They got that pick because they were on the clock and they knew they didn't want to take two first rounders into the season, and they made their calls, or they got calls from around the league, and the best deal on the table was the Hornets offering that pick, and they traded for the pick. And then they had the pick, and they're like, well, we don't really want this pick anymore. Let's shop it around, and let's see what the best thing is for it. Okay, let's take a shot on Reddish. And like, look, maybe Reddish is going to be a great player in this league. I would not be shocked. He's got talent to do it, but he can go and play and like be good and be bad, and probably more bad than good somewhere. And that's not going to happen on this roster next year. It's just not. Barring something completely unforeseen that I don't anticipate happening, I would be shocked if that happens here next year. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve minutes. I'm not saying he might end up as better than any player on the Knicks roster. Wouldn't shock me. Actually, that would shock me. It would shock me, but like it's not outside of the bounds of conceivability that like Cam Reddish, someday really, really blows up, because he has the talent to do it. But that's not what it's about. It's about what Knicks are at right now, and they want to put their best foot forward this season. And that foot is probably not going to contain Cam Reddish. It's just a matter of like, what do they do with him? Because it's you got to find someone willing to give up something for the guy.
So in the same vein, though, real quick, do you feel like sticking with Fournier is a foot forward, meaning keeping him on this roster?
I should have completed the thought before. There's nowhere you can dump him right now. The only team left with cap space, I think, is the Spurs, unless I'm mistaken, or maybe the Pacers now too. But so any team that took on Fournier is going to obviously demand a draft asset. The Knicks are not going to pay a draft asset to dump Evan Fournier. And if you look around the league, crazy to say, but this is actually true, teams are responsible in their spending over recent years. And typically, it's a situation where if you're maybe a team like the Knicks would have looked around and tried to find, a mid-tier contract of a guy that's like not very good and maybe expiring money. And you're like, here, take on Fournier. He could play for you. You could build up his value, and we'll take on your crappy, I'm trying to think of like a good example. Like Al-Farouq Amino, once upon a time, is probably the last player to sign for like significant money that just was like, it was very clear by the middle of his first year of his deal was like not an NBA player. Like, look around the league right now. Who is the best example of that? Like, I don't know, Kelly Olynyk? But like, the Pistons don't want Evan Fournier. They already took all of our crap already. They sure want more of it, especially that's going to extend into another year. So like, there's no place to trade Evan Fournier, except a team out there who has a giant salary of a player that they very much don't want and is desperately looking to get off that salary. And give their 30, how old is LeBron James? 37-year-old, superstar another chance at a title, which is why you're going to hear Lakers rumors until the day that Russ is moved, or I guess until the season starts. But short of something involving LA, and that would be expanded into a probably a larger trade involving Mitchell, and then we're back to square one because we're talking about a different team. So,
right.
Yeah, long answer short, I don't expect 48 to go anywhere anytime soon, unless they trade for Mitchell.
Which I understand that does make sense. And just shout out to Jay Boogie. He said J Mac is in the building. Stop what you're doing. If you don't have champagne already, stay sober. Shout out to the chat, the panel. J Mac, name dropping you in a song this year. Appreciate you. So
thank you, Jay Boogie.
Well, listen, man, Macri, I the conversation is great, man. I hate to see you go, but I know I promised I'd get you out of here, and I don't want to keep you too long. But I just want to say thank you again for being with us,
Absolutely.
man. John, did you have anything else you wanted to say to Mac?
Thank you. Appreciate you, and please let everybody know what to look out for in the upcoming days.
Oh,
you guys are hot in the press.
Yeah, what are we doing now? Knicks Film School newsletter on Substack. You can just go to my Twitter page. It's JC Macri NBA. Subscribe to that. Still putting out 5 newsletters a week, although I will probably take a day off this week and maybe a day off next week. I took a day off, I think, last week as well. So my goal this summer was to take 4 weekdays off from writing the newsletter. So I'm going to try to honor that goal. But otherwise, it is 5 days a week. And then, just Knicks Film School podcast, YouTube channel. We're doing, me, Jeremy, and Andrew right now, we're doing all-time picks. So, like, we just did of every player that was drafted number 2 overall. We didn't pick every player that's ever been drafted. We each went 8 deep. So we drafted or 7 deep. So we drafted 21 players, and it was fun. So we're gonna do. It was cool. I think Andrew's supposed to put up a Twitter poll tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. So you could vote for me, obviously, as the winner of that draft. And then we're gonna we're gonna do. I think I actually, in all honesty, and then we'll do. I think the 3rd pick draft, and then the 4th pick draft, and what else? Am I forgetting anything? Yeah, that's really it. Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
No, man, it's always a pleasure, man. What was I going to say? Do you guys have set days, or you just go on when you feel it?
Well, we go live. We go live after every game, and then we went in summer league games and preseason and all of those games. We always go live on the Knicks Film School YouTube channel after the games, and then for any breaking news, like we did a live. Also did a live like trade deadline show. We did a live free agency show, and I'm sure a live draft show. I don't know if I mentioned that. So yeah, we go, and anytime any news breaks. So like, yeah, if and when Donovan Mitchell gets traded to the Knicks, you could be sure that we will be on there talking about it within a few minutes, barring one of us being on a plane or something.
You see this guy? That's how you know he's a professional and knows what he's doing. I was just about to say, so I expect when we get Donovan Mitchell, you'll be doing the breaking news for that. I don't even have to say it. This is a guy. He knows exactly what needs to be said. There you go.
Oh. I don't know if I know what needs to be said. I do say a bunch of shit though.
Well, listen, it's great to have you once again. Hopefully we'll get you back another time, and maybe it'll be a little bit more loosey-goosey because we'll have one of them spirit moments. Maybe we'll have one of a Still Knick Fans KFS spirit podcast one of those days.
Nice.
I do love my spirits, but thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it, and look forward to the next time already.
All right, man. Well, thanks once again. Have a great night. Get some rest, and we'll keep following the great content that you guys keep putting out at Knick Film School. Take care. All right. So, guys, once again, if you're just tuning in, that was Jonathan Macri from Knicks Film School. In case you missed it, we chopped it up for a good amount of time, man. We talked about a little bit about him and a little bit about how Knicks Film School has been created, where it's where it's at right now. So definitely watch the replay of this so you can kind of catch up on all that stuff that you might have missed. It's been a good conversation. So want to thank you.
He stated he wasn't objective, but everything he gave us was very objective. Right?
That's right, because that's who we see, and that's what we love. We love that about Knick Film School and his takes, because they are very objective. Yeah, but of course, like any Knick fan, there's moments where objectivity goes out the window when we get a little frustrated about what things are going on. But for the most part, it's good to try to stay as objective as possible and even keeled. But and he does a good job at that.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, thank you once again. We're not out of here yet. I just want to shout out to the chat. Thank you once again for being here with us. Shout out to Keith Turner in the building, Kerry Cooper. What's going on? Kareem Grant is here. Rayology is in the building. Jay Money is here. What's good? Appreciate you. Almighty Finesse is in the building. Thank you guys for tuning in. And obviously Jay Boogie, it goes without saying. Appreciate you as always, brother. Good to see you. Neville Humphreys is in the building. Thank you. Yankees Morning Brew is in the building. What's going on? And shout out to Knick Fans Brazil once again. Victor, I know I mentioned it earlier, but that was a good interview you had with Macri. You keep putting out these great interviews. I saw you interviewed someone else very recently. I forgot her name, but she's like hot, in everybody's eyes right now. They're like, she might be the next best, big thing. I know they did a Forbes magazine piece on her. I forgot what her name is. I forget everything, but that was another good get by you, man. Good job, Victor. Keep building that Knick Fans Brazil catalog. Yeah. So, I wanted to get back into, a couple of those slides that you had, we started talking about, John, because we talked about Donovan Mitchell. And I think we should kind of touch on the rest of the starting lineup, what it could basically projected to be with Donovan Mitchell. So if we get those slides back up, and the next slide is for Mr. Jalen Brunson. You guys can see, Jalen Brunson, had a very good season last year, averaging 16 points, little under 4 rebounds, 4.8 assists. His field goal percentage was 50%. 3-point, field goal percentage was 37%, which is a really good number, especially for a guy.
Right. This basically this kind of speaks to what Jonathan Macri was talking about as far as his 3-point percentage not being over a 40% clip, but at 37 for last season isn't terribly bad. He may not be the spot up shooter that Jonathan was speaking of. He may not have that skill set 100 in his bag yet, but I think being in a new situation, being the person who's facilitating the offense, having the ball swung to him as a third option off of a maybe pick and roll action may fare well for him. You know what I mean? It may fare well for Jalen Brunson because he'll be in the mix of an offense. He's not just waiting in the wing, looking at Doncic, do his thing. He's actually in the groove of the game. So I think that may just help his game out.
Right. And even at 37%, that's still above league average.
Still good.
So that's a good sign. Yeah. And all those numbers that you guys did see, 84% from the free throw line, 54.9%, almost 55% effective field goal percentage. I mean, that's huge.
Love that.
17% efficiency rating. The win shares. I don't get into the win shares too much. I don't quite understand all of them, but I know it's a good thing if your win shares are higher, I would assume.
Right. His win shares are pretty good though. That's 7.5.
Right.
And
I would think that 7.5 is a
right?
good number.
Yeah.
And the other thing about Jalen Brunson is you saw those numbers, guys. All those numbers are pretty much due to go up because remember that's him facilitating in a backseat role. Like Luka was the main facilitator over there. So now with him being
and
the
Luka
guy
had the
Knicks,
majority of those shots too.
Correct.
Let's not forget.
Correct. So I think all of Jalen Brunson's numbers should be going up, which is a nice sign. And I'm really excited for what he's going to bring to the team and how he can have his impact on the starting lineup, especially guys like RJ and Julius. So if we bring up the next slide, it gets right into Julius.
Speaking of Julius.
So this is interesting, right? Because look, Julius had a very funky season this past year, which we all know. Points per game was 20. Total rebounds 9.9. Let's just say 10 because Julius is a double guy. 20 and 10 is, you can kind of pencil that in. 5 assists, still over 5 assists. And think about that. He had over 5 assists
on a down year.
Right, on a down year. And what's not up there is he had about 4 turnovers. He averaged about 4 turnovers a game. So think about the efficiency if he could cut down on some of those turnovers, or say if we had a primary ball handler who could take the ball out of his hands as much so he wouldn't have to turn the ball over like that. Just saying. 41% field goal percentage, which that's not a great number, obviously.
That's the
3-point field goal percentage was 30%, another bad number. Free throw percentage 75%. That's respectable. It's okay. It's passable.
That's average.
Effective field goal percentage 45.9. For a guy like Julius, with all his skill set, you'd like that number to be a lot higher. His player efficiency rating is 15%. Wasn't terribly efficient. He's not terribly efficient for his career, as you can see, 17%. It's up and down. He's had good moments. We also know the most improved player year, he had a really good year. He was a lot more efficient with everything. And look at the win shares, 3.1, as opposed to we saw Jalen Brunson's win shares was 7.5 or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah, but it was over 7. So I mean, look at the difference there.
Big difference.
Obviously, it points to Dallas also being a better team than us. So the win shares, it matters there too. But yeah.
But I think it's also something to say that, Julius not having to be the number one every game, right? Not having to be the player, the point forward position. He could sort of play his role. He can get out in the block. He can, position himself to be more effective offensively, running off of pick and rolls, schemes, not being, like you said, the primary ball handler every time down the court. I think this is going to help him be more efficient. At least that's what I'm hoping. I think all signs can sort of, if you're looking at the signs, it kind of shows you that this is going to be better for him than what it was in the last few years. I think he understands his role a little bit better now with this team. He understands that he is got to lead by example. And that's what we all hope to see, and that he just comes in motivated. He seems motivated in the offseason to get his body into great shape, which he's done. And now it's about applying that on the court. So if they were to keep Randle, I think this is just going to make him a better fit with a Donovan Mitchell, because the onus is going to be on Donovan Mitchell to score the buckets, right? And to Jalen Brunson to be the orchestrator. And so that's sort of what we're speaking about here. If we were to keep Julius in this situation, right? In this what you call this scenario, you keep Julius with a Donovan Mitchell. Julius just has to be a solid number 3 guy. You know what I mean? That's all we're asking for him. And that 20 and 10 looks mighty effective if he's working down in the block, and being effective, being an effective rebounder for obviously misses that Donovan will have, or Jalen Brunson.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Good point. Yeah. So I mean, I hope that we do get to see that side of Julius, and I hope the Knicks fans are patient and work with him, because I think, like I mentioned, I think he's going to be here, and so we need to see the best out of him. But the point for us is for our team to be better. If Julius is here, we want the best. You know what I mean? So anyway, that brings us to the next slide. And that is Mr. RJ Barrett.
Before we run down this list, when we get down to those efficiency ratings, look how closely they resemble Randall's.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know.
That was the most interesting part about this.
Right. So RJ averaged 20 points per game this past season, 5.8 total rebounds, 3 assists, Field goal percentage is 40.8%. Once again, that field goal percentage you would like that to be higher. 3-point field goal percentage, 34%. League average, I think, is around 36. So, and then after RJ having a season prior where he was at 40%, you definitely like that number to go up a little bit, even if it's not 40%, 38 or something around there would be nice for him. Free throw percentage, 71%, which is a really good number, guys, because honestly, when we saw RJ out there most of the season, it did not look like he was even shooting 71%. All those free throws he missed throughout certain times. But that points to the fact that RJ is such a streaky player. He has these really bad spells where he's bad, and then he becomes really hot, really good, and then he'll go back. Like, he's very streaky. Because he had some stinkers out there in the free throw line, shooting around 60% for even over, I think it was over a month. But that just shows you, if he shot 71%, he was pretty good for a lot of, the rest of the year. Okay, so his effective field goal percentage is 46%. Once again, that's very similar to what we saw from Julius, as well as the field goal percentage that we saw earlier. His player efficiency rating is 13.7, and the win share is 2.3. So, yeah, I don't get into the win shares too much because we know the Knicks were a bad team. But the efficiency rating, that's a key number.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, the 71% from the free throw line at the three, right, or the guard position, whatever you want to call it, wherever you felt like he played most of his time in, it's not is nowhere near what he's going up against. Players like DeJounte Murray or, Tatum and those guys, they're at an 80, 78, 80% clip from the free throw line. And as much volume as RJ puts on his body to get to the basket and get called to go on to the line, he needs to be a lot more efficient from the free throw line. And that's one of the reasons why he's sort of teetering around 18, 19 points per game and can't get over the threshold, because he isn't effective enough on the free throw line. Even Randall shot it better than him in the free throw line. And that's something to be said about, him being able to, hone his craft and just, get, just taking his time, being patient and shoot it effectively. Try to, it's almost rhythm shooting, right? When it comes to free throw shooting, you want to have your technique be the same every time you get to the free throw line. And for him, he just doesn't have the right rhythm.
Right. I agree with that. Yeah. We got one more slide for you guys, and that is obviously Mitchell Robinson, the center. And as you guys haven't already noticed, these slides that we have shown so far have been Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, and now Mitchell Robinson, a proposed starting five for the New York Knicks if Donovan Mitchell was to be a part of the team. When you look at Mitchell Robinson, which, first off, the number that we should all focus on here is 72 games played. Salute, shout out to Mitch.
Right. Yeah, he made
the
it.
whole season. You know what I mean? Come on now. I can't be mad at that at all. So shout out to him for that. 8.5 points per game, 8.6 total rebounds, 0.5 assists. Okay, no big deal.
Those two spots would be better with a facilitating point guard.
They will. You beat me to that, but I knew you were going to go there. Field goal percentage, 76%, which is fantastic. A lot of Mitchell's shots are always right around the rim. So any, dunks and putbacks and his layups, they're pretty, he's pretty good at finishing. Free throw percentage, now that's a doozy, 48.6%. That's a definite no. And honestly, when I look at that, I'm realizing that Mitch doesn't have to be that good at the free throw percentage, because if he can get his free throw percentage up to around 60%, that's a big change from 48% for these Knicks. Like, it's not like you don't love it, but that's 12% increase is huge. So yeah, if he can really work on his free throws and get that up, that'd be great. Effective field goal percentage is fantastic, 76%. It's one of the best in the league because of the type of shots he takes and makes. His player efficiency rating is 20.7, which is better than RJ, better than Randall. It's also, look at the way he's shooting and scoring. His win shares is 8.5, which is also better than Randall and better than RJ. Just something to keep in mind. Yeah. So, like, the thing is, you can already know that with the addition of Jalen Brunson here, RJ, Julius, and Mitch should all have better overall numbers on the offensive end. Defense, that's another story. That's on them to work that out. But on the offensive end, all their numbers should increase. Free throw percentage, that's something they have to work on themselves. But as far as the type of shots they'll get, the opportunities, I think will be plentiful with a facilitator like Jalen Brunson. And since we're talking about the Donovan Mitchell effect, if Donovan Mitchell is here as well, then I believe all three of their efficiencies, as well as Jalen's, will all go up. Now, that doesn't mean they'll all still have the same type of, point output. I think Mitchell's point output will increase. Julius' numbers might stay around where it's at or might take a little dip. RJ's numbers might stay where they're at or take a little bit of a dip, most likely a little bit of a dip. But his efficiency, like all their efficiencies, should go up. Having a star player like Donovan Mitchell who can, get buckets the way he does, and he's a very efficient player in his own right. And then having a facilitator like Jalen to put them in better spots, and then take the ball out of their hands when they're getting double team, triple team, all those trapping things that are happening. I think that's huge for the Knicks. And I think, say what you will, the Eastern Conference has gotten a lot better. That's fine. But that doesn't mean the Knicks aren't. I mean, the Knicks are a part of the Eastern Conference. And if they can get Donovan here with the addition of Jalen already, they'll be better too. So we don't know exactly how good they'll be, but they'll be better.
Yeah, and we're sticking with the projected five that we see as potential starters with the Donovan Mitchell. And we're not going to include players like Obi and Quickly and Grimes because we don't necessarily know if this trade were to happen, who would be going. What we do know is that Mitchell is in, and then if there isn't a trade or the rumor trade for Randall, we expect him to be on this team. So that's sort of what we envision when we put this together.
Right. Agreed. Shout out to the chat once again. Thank you guys for rocking with us. Please hit that like button if you can. If you haven't already done so, we appreciate that. Knicks for life, my man Chuck is in the building. Appreciate you. Nick Yak is here. Thank you for tuning in. The Public Enemy is in the building. What's good? Long Island Sound is here. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Drugs, what's going on, brother? Hope you're doing good, man. Appreciate you. Julian Blum is in the building. What's good, Julian? I think I got everybody new that just popped into the chat. Thank you guys as always
everybody
for supporting. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. And also, guys, for any of you guys who might have just tuned in, you tuned into the show, you're like, oh, Jonathan Macri's here. You don't see Jonathan. Well, he was here. We chopped it up for about 50 minutes. But we let him go so he could have a good rest of his night. But if you have the time after the show wraps up, please feel free to watch the rewind. We had a very good conversation with Jonathan Macri from Knicks Film School. So thank you guys for tuning in once again. Appreciate that. Illmatic is in the building. What's good? Francisco Carrillo is in the building. What's going on? And I think I'll be forgetting. I thought I said Brooklyn Buddha, but if I didn't, shout out to Brooklyn Buddha.
Nice.
Yeah, man. So I'm feeling I'm in a much better place right now about what the Knicks are. And, Jonathan Macri said something that was interesting. I think he sees more value in Evan Fournier than a lot of fans do. But I don't fault him for that because I do think that that's a very interesting stat. The fact that Evan Fournier shot in the second half of the season more threes than anybody. I mean, made more threes than anybody else.
Threes. Yeah.
Because there was a point
where there were some good games though. I mean, specifically the Boston series. He played extremely well against Boston. He did play really well against the 76ers as well. I mean, there were some stinkers too. Don't get me wrong. Like
There was.
playing against the Orlando Magic were stinker games.
Yeah. There was a reason why they
know.
nicknamed him the French Cruller for a little bit. He had that donut.
Yeah, pretty much. So
and he put his foot in his mouth when he said something about eating that bad steak. Yeah. That didn't help either.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, what he did say, which I think a lot of Knicks fans would agree, we can point to, when you look at the whatever without Donovan Mitchell, just say whatever the projected starting five would be, and then the backup five, that top 10 players.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all pretty decent players. Like they all have an upside to them in their game and what they can bring to the team. And what you don't get from one, you get from another. If Fournier is your starting shooting guard, you know he's a knockdown 3-point shooter. He can get you 4 or 5 a night. You know, on the flip side, you know he's poor defensively. Then you could spell him with a Quentin Grimes, who can also give you some 3-point shooting, but a much better defender. Jalen Brunson being your starting point guard. You know what you're going to get from him, and you should expect a lot of it and a lot more of it. So then, you know, to spell him, you've got Derrick Rose. And, you know, with a healthy Derrick Rose, you know what he can bring. Nothing wrong there. Then at 3, you got RJ Barrett. You know, you could expect what most likely you'll see from RJ. Hopefully he's more efficient. Off the bench, we're talking possibly Cam Reddish, or I don't know who else they might fit in that spot, but most likely Cam Reddish. And if Cam Reddish plays the way we think Cam Reddish can play, that's a very good thing to spell, you know, RJ. At the 4, Julius Randle. You know what he is, 20, 10, and 5. Coming off the bench, a guy, if he gets the minutes, you know, I expect something around, you know, 16, 6 or 7 rebounds and maybe 2 or 3 assists. But that's just average wise. Obviously, you can have better games, but that would be what you can get from Obi spelling Julius. And then at the center, Mitchell Robinson, the number 2 offensive rebounder in the NBA. Possibly his offensive numbers will start to go up a little bit more. You'll get a little bit more touches. Maybe he'll improve on his free throw percentage, but you know what you're getting from him. You know he's a rim protector. And then you bring in a guy off the bench in Isaiah Hartenstein, who is a baby type Mitchell Robinson, because he's very good at being a rim protector. He's a fantastic passer, so he gives you a different dynamic, right? They'll be moving that ball when he's out there. He can stretch the floor a little bit. I'm not going to throw the whole, now that there's been more time and I've got to look at his game, well, I'm not going to say he's a 3-point shooter, but he can stretch the floor a little bit. And definitely can hit a long 2 for you, right? And he's a pretty good free throw shooter. And he's a decent rebounder. But, you know, he gives you kind of that rim protection thing that Mitch gives you. He can rim protect as well. He's a pretty good defender, even outside of the paint. On the perimeter, he's a pretty good defender as well. So that starting 10 top 10 of the Knicks, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. And then I didn't even mention Emmanuel Quickly, which once again is a nice problem to have, but it's a little funky because Quickly needs minutes. So if he's
I don't agree. I understand, you know, Jonathan. You know, I understand his point and his objectiveness around moving a guy like Evan Fournier, you know, and the reasons why there's probably not that many potential suitors for him. But I think if the Knicks want to go into this season, and this is my personal opinion, if they want to go into this season without a logjam at that guard position, it's best that they go look for some team to deal with, because at some point it's going to become a problem. We know the defensive deficiencies that he comes with. So just that alone should make this an ask for the front office. This should be an automatic, right? Let's try to get younger. Let's try to get more athletic, you know, regardless of the shooting. Those shooting numbers don't quite fill the need that the Knicks have, right? I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it. I watched every game last season, and every game, whether he was good and on or if he wasn't, it did not affect the game to the point where you can expect that game in and game out. That's the thing for me.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
You know what I mean?
Although I will give him credit for possibly winning 3 games for us.
Absolutely.
Possibly.
But so did Kemba. Right? So did Kemba. So for me, it's like if you can expect that sort of play game in and game out, then it's not worth keeping on this roster. I'd rather go with a young player who has more upside than an Evan Fournier, and he may not shoot it as well, but that's okay because we're able to pick up those inefficiencies of lack of shooting in other areas where we can probably get more turnovers on the defensive side and be able to run transition offense on the opposite end. So I'm banking that we look for a suitor for, Evan Fournier, irregardless whether or not we make a package for Donovan Mitchell or not. That's what I'm banking on.
You might be right. You might be right because, like I said, I mean, when you look at that starting 10, I'm just going to call it the top 10 because they're not all starting. You know what I mean, guys? And
that's top 11, right? With Quick.
That's top 11 with Quick. That's the thing. Like that's for Quick to be your 11th guy. I don't know. Now, of course, you could put Quick ahead of Cam, but why would you really want to do that? Like to me, and that's another thing to the point what Macri was saying. I don't think he really sees Cam here long term. I don't see him here long term either, but I do feel like the Knicks need to try to play Cam to up his value so that they can get some type of asset for him because Cam is not going to be here. Just being honest, guys. And I know some fans who like Cam and what he possibly could bring this Knicks team are hoping and rooting that they give Cam the minutes, but be realistic. Cam's not taking RJ's spot. So the Knicks are going to still try to sign RJ to a contract. They're not going to have the money to invest in a Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, a RJ Barrett, and a Cam Reddish. Like it's just invested in the wrong places. Now, if Cam Reddish was a solid player that you could depend on, that is going to get you these buckets, like he always is showing up, then you look at it differently. But he hasn't shown that yet. So there's no way. And I don't think this season is going to turn the Knicks brass minds around that, hey, we can invest 150 plus million in Cam Reddish as well as RJ. They're just not going to do it. So Cam's going to get moved. Now,
I do have a question around that, though. I have a question around that. So there's this automatic around Grimes, right? About him being the next in line, right? Potentially to even start if we don't get Donovan Mitchell, right? I don't quite understand why that is a thing. What is he owed in the next few years? How long do we have him on our under the rookie contract for? Is he with us for the next 3 years? 2 years. So that doesn't.
No,
he'll have 3 more years.
So 3 more years.
Right. So
he ain't going anywhere.
He ain't going nowhere. So I don't understand why not. If I'm Knicks front office and I'm the coaching staff, why am I so worried about playing Grimes when he's going to have plenty of opportunity to do so?
Oh, I see your point.
Why not start the season giving minutes to Cam to up his trade value or to even see what he potentially could bring to this Knicks team? You don't have to start him, but if you don't have Fournier, it makes the most sense to start Cam. If you don't have Fournier and you didn't get rid of him in the trade, right? Because you could potentially get rid of him in a trade with Fournier. But if you were to keep Fournier, right? You were to move Fournier and keep Cam, then that opportunity lends itself to him, right? What, you're not moving Obi to that number 3 spot, or you're not pushing Randall to the 3 spot. I mean, they might, but that doesn't seem like the obvious choice. So there's so many different things that they can play here because Grimes ain't going nowhere for the next 3 years. Like, he's ours unless he gets moved But what everyone is saying is that the Knicks are higher on him and they don't want to move him. So
very true. Now that's a good point.
Where are we?
That's interesting. I didn't think about that. That is true. If we've got him and control him for the next 3 years, what's the urgency to throw Grimes out there when you got a guy in Cam that you need to showcase and get some playing time for? That's interesting. That's something the Knicks going to have to think about. And maybe they are thinking about it, because that's actually, you brought up a really good point. We do have control of Grimes. If he doesn't go in a Donovan Mitchell trade, he'll be here. So that's interesting. Good point, John. Good point. Shout out to Ron Sarmiento in the building. My guy Dripmore is in the building. What's good? The Knicks barber extraordinaire, Dripmore. Alton Lee is here. What's good, Alton Lee? Appreciate you. And also shout out to Dwayne Dennis. What's good, man? Appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, I think this is all very interesting and something the Knicks are going to have to figure out, because I do think that even if we're not, salute Danny Landis, I see you, appreciate you, man. Even if the Knicks don't get Donovan, I think the Knicks need to figure out a way to trim this team a little bit. I hate to say it, but they got to figure out a way to condense the team so that way your 11th man is not quickly. Now, what John said is a good point, but that could just flip around. Then your 11th man could be Grimes. That's kind of tough too, because I think at some point Thibodeau just has a love affair with Grimes, and he's just going to need him out there at certain points, because even though Cam is a good defender and he's a willing defender, I don't know if he's as consistent a defender as Grimes is. So that's the reason why Grimes may warrant the minutes in Tibbs's eyes, and the Knicks may need him out there more often than not. But you make a really good point that is something that, they're going to.
There's an argument to be had, is what I'm saying. Like, it isn't just cut and dry that Grimes gets those minutes. Is what I'm saying. Like, it shouldn't be just an automatic thing or thought process around Knicks fandom, right? Like, there's so many different roads to get where you need to get. Or you can just move Cam and quickly, and you keep Fournier. No one wants to hear that, but that could be something that you do as well to give, more opportunity to some players to get more minutes. Yep.
Agreed. Yeah. No, I'm not gonna disagree with you there. You man, that's interesting.
Tibbs plays 9 guys. Like, he plays 9 guys. He doesn't go 10. He doesn't go 11. He plays legit 9 guys. And those other guys that get spot minutes, they're getting garbage time.
Although, somehow, even though Tibbs tries to play those 8-9 guys, I think for some reason he's going to get closer to a 10-man rotation, but not necessarily willingly. It's just going to be things happening, guys getting in foul trouble, stuff of that nature.
Oh, that's the only way, though.
Yeah.
That's like, barring that, but that's still garbage minutes, because look, he'll play he played Taj 15, 20 minutes because guys were injured, right? And he even had, there was one time he had an opportunity to play Jericho, and he chose Taj to play over Jericho.
Almost the whole damn game.
But which doesn't make any, so that's what I'm saying. Like, he's not going to shift the way he operates, or he goes out and he identifies the players he wants to play in a specific game. He's generally going to. He's not.
Probably not.
He's not. For anyone out there who's going to bet, the betting odds are that he's not. You know what I mean? And so, we just got to look at this squad and say, yo, we're way too deep down, and we expect these young kids to get minutes or an opportunity. Then, it's not going to happen with the Knicks. So they might as well move a few pieces.
Although the flip side to that argument, before we get out of here, John, is we've never had this much talent. This is the most talented our roster has been since Tibbs has been here. So maybe he will look at it that way and say, okay, I'm still not going crazy with my rotation, but it does warrant me getting one more player involved. I can add one more to the mix because we have more talent than we had. Maybe that's the caveat. Maybe.
Yeah, that one player is going to play 5 minutes.
Hey,
You know what I mean?
you're right.
It's not
Yeah.
enough. It's not enough minutes to make an impact, is what I'm saying.
Right. No,
You
I
know,
agree.
like the 8 to 9 guys he's going to play are the guys who are going to play the majority of the minutes. And
Yep.
so whoever
100%.
that 9th guy is going to play about 5 to 8 minutes. And you got to bank that, you know, he has effective minutes on the court. He's rebounding really well. He's driving home on the picks. You know what I mean? He's where he needs to be on the offensive and defensive end when it comes to his rotation. Like all of those things play a factor in the way Tibbs coaches. So I just, you know, I don't see it. You know, I still agree with you, Ron. Got to skim the fat, right? We gotta cut some fat. Gotta do it. Gotta do it before the season starts, though. We can't wait.
Yeah. No, I
can't
think
wait.
you're right. Wow. This is going to be an interesting season. I'm just like, I just don't know where we're going yet. I'm patiently waiting to see what moves happen and what's next for this Knicks team and where we go from here. Shout out to King Poppy NYK. He said, Ron, please let me have your hat. Oh man, brother. What's that commercial back in the day?
You
No,
be
my
crushing
brother.
it with the
You got
hats.
to get your own. Hey man, I appreciate you though. Listen, if they had this is a fitted. If they had a snapback version, then I might want to pick up one of those, maybe do like a giveaway for the fans. But yeah, they're only fitted,
Now
man.
these
So
fitteds are like $70, $80 nowadays, man. They be wild.
fitteds are wild, B. These fitteds are wild.
For real.
Yeah, man. Salute to you guys once again. Oh, and salute to my guy Neville Humphreys. I think I got an alert. Thank you, man. Neville Humphreys, appreciate you. You are our first Patreon member. Thank you for the generous donation to our Patreon account. Appreciate you. And thank you for always supporting the show, man. Now you're gonna actually make me do some work because we've never used the Patreon, and now I got to figure out how that whole thing works over there and how to view it. So yeah, thank you though, appreciate it. And eventually, as the show grows, we'll get to the point where we can set up different levels of patronage, and then maybe we can give you guys some exclusive content. But that all comes with time. We've got to build that out. And then maybe at some point, once we get past that, then we can get into some type of membership level. We could do something special for that. Yeah. Shout out to Wardy Sports he does a great podcast for the New York Mets. He's got this whole thing for his patrons and his members where you get exclusive content, but also he gives you like little logos, and he's got like little Met Lindors and Pete Alonso's, and I would love to get something like that. Figure out how he got that for like the Knicks players, so we could do something like that for our patrons. So I'm gonna look into it though. So and shout out to JJ. I seen you put that in. I believe you put that in the chat. Mets won again tonight, 5-1 Cincinnati. Where you at? But
let's go.
Sorry. Just want to throw that out there. Did the Yankees win tonight, John?
We don't play. We playing now. We just started.
Oh, you got a late game. Okay.
We got a late game against I believe it's Seattle Mariners, but we've been faltering, man, as of late, man. Those pickups haven't failed very well as of late.
I didn't want to bring it up. I just wanted to ask you, like,
fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
We'll spin it.
Okay.
I'm not worried. I'm still not worried. However, I would love to see Didi come back to this Yankee team. I would love to see Cash go pick him up for the cheap. Yeah, man. But I don't think he will. I hope he will, but I don't think he will.
Well, we'll see. We're still hoping for the Subway Series later on when it gets a little cold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, not the one that's coming up soon. Not the warm one. We want the cold one later. Yeah.
That's a fact. My season ended in softball, by the way. It's terrible.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, man. First,
you guys didn't win the championship.
We didn't fit. No. We got bumped the first round, man. It was terrible. Close games, but we couldn't get the wins, man. Coming from a season where we made the championship, which sucks. We was at the championship game, and then this season we didn't fare. A lot of injuries. We had like 3-4 guys go down. It's terrible.
Damn, man. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, next year's another year, and I know you still got it in you. You're dedicated, so I know you guys will be back out there, and you get another go at it, man.
Yeah, man.
Maybe you need to change them uniforms you got. Put some orange and blue in it.
Not gonna happen.
Just saying, it's just a suggestion. I'm just saying.
Listen, man.
Anyway,
we're a money green team. Money green.
Okay, all right, that's dope. Shout out to Hard Will, appreciate you, guys. If you haven't already subscribed and checked out For the Love of the Game with my man Hard Will and World YL, who showed love in here earlier, definitely check out their show For the Love of the Game with the number 4 OUR, Love of the Game. Check them out. Subscribe to the channel. Very good content, as always. And also shout out to my guy. Let me see. Project Nerd, aka Heck, Yankees Morning Brew. Definitely salute to him and his show. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. He's talking Yankees as well as other teams. Definitely, he's giving you some really good content on the Yanks, so check him out. Let's see if there was anybody else maybe that had a show that I may not have thought of. I can't see it right now, but if it comes to me, I'll definitely shout you out. Oh, and shout out to Dripmore. Go to his channel. He is the official barber of Still Knick Fans, so definitely go check out his channel and subscribe to him. Yeah, man. Well, yeah, thank you guys for who may have tuned in right about now. Absolutely. I know there's been a lot of Monday nights, evening going into tonight is jam-packed with Knick content. Knicks and Bruises, the Queen's Court, For the Love of the Game. I think Blorange Tears did something, Blorange Tears 360 or something today as well. Just so many different things happening today, and as well as our show. So thank you guys for being here and rocking with us. Seeing 72 of you here is just remarkable considering how much is going on today. And thank you. Definitely hit that like button. Show your love for us, man. So before we get up out of here, Jose, you with us?
Yeah.
Hey, Jose in the building. What's going on, brother? Everything good?
Everything is great, man. How you doing?
No, not bad. Just wanted you to say what's up to the people. They love hearing from Jose.
Oh, what's up, everyone? Listen, you guys should really subscribe to our Patreon page. I just learned about it just now. But listen, I'm thinking maybe for those who subscribe to our Patreon page can get a sneak peek of seasons 3 layout.
That's a good idea. Yeah. All right. I like that. Yeah. Maybe we could put that together. Yeah. Well, that'll be our next, chop it up session. We'll figure out some stuff that we need to really do to beef up that Patreon. Like I said, there's a couple ideas I already had, and I'm sure, Jose and John might have some ideas. We'll chop it up and see how we can get that Patreon going, as well as a couple other things that we've been talking about that we would like to start instituting. So we're gonna keep grinding and keep bringing you guys some good stuff, man. Thank you for always supporting us. Knicks Nation 112, where the players dwell, is in the building. Appreciate you. Yeah, man. Was that all you had, Jose? Was there anything else you wanted to say?
I think you guys are doing an awesome job, and it's great to see John join you this past Saturday on Know the Ledge. And if you guys don't know, every Saturday, 11 a.m., same channel, Know the Ledge.
That's right. That was a fun time.
Right. Thank you.
I had a little bit of extra time on my hands.
Yeah, that actually was a pretty fun time. I forgot if I wanted to mention that again. That was definitely, it's very cool when I can get John on Saturday, because I know he's got so much going on with the fam and everything, but it was real, and he spent a lot of time with us that day. That was very nice.
Yeah, pretty much almost like it was crazy. As I said, I'm saying goodbye, I'm jumping off, and then I was like, they're still on for another 30 plus minutes. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, man. Saturdays we go. Like Donovan Mitchell said about Jalen Brunson, he can go. Still Knick fans on Saturdays, we go. So yeah, keep that in mind, guys. Anyway, Thank you guys for being with us. John, any final words, brother?
Something's
See,
going
one
on.
more thing though.
Oh,
If you need more Ron and John and you can't wait till Saturday and you cannot wait till next week Monday, you could catch them on Thursday at 8 p.m. on the Nothing But Knicks channel for the NBA report on the NBK network.
Ooh.
mm-hmm.
Okay, I promise that's
Just
how I'm done.
easy. That was
Yeah,
easy,
man.
just right there.
Yeah,
Bam.
I like that. You know, this guy's good, man. This boy's good. Any final words, John?
Man, as always looking forward to the next one. I just want everybody, I just want to say thank you all for tuning in and looking forward to the next one. Stay blessed out there.
Yep, what he said. I agree with that wholeheartedly. So once again, I want to thank Jonathan Macri from Knicks Film School for being here with us. Appreciate him chopping it up with us, guys. If you just tuned in not too long ago, Jonathan Macri was here. He chopped it up with us for a good amount of time, like 50 minutes, man, a good amount of time. So definitely, watch that rewind and look at the conversation. It was really good. We had some good takes and really good dialogue that we had. So definitely get that rewind going. As always, you heard Jose say it. Know the Ledge on Saturday, 11 a.m. Thursday night at 8 p.m. The NBA report on the MBK network. This Thursday, we're going to try it once again. It's looking good. So we're going to have Coach Nick from BBall Breakdown. He wasn't able to make it last week, but he has his family situation is good, and he will be with us this Thursday at 8 p.m. So I'm looking forward to that. That should be a really good conversation. And obviously, you know what? Always stay tuned for our SKF weekly on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Next week will be another fun show. Think I know who our guest may be, but we'll see. We'll let you know as we get closer to that. Once again, as I always say, tell a friend who tells a friend who tells another friend. Still Knicks fans. We'll be back again. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hey, man, hit that like button on your way out. Have a great rest of your night. Enjoy whatever tomorrow brings. And if you're on the East Coast, listen, stay inside. Get in that AC because it's going to be like 95. Real feel is going to be 100 tomorrow. It is going to be bacon. So take care of yourselves. And go Knicks, man. Hope for the best. We'll catch y'all on the next one, man.